and welcome back to another week of The Advocate 2021. I am Nikki Fratangelo-Berardi, along with the one and only DJ Doughie Fresh, and let's not forget our boy Stingray, live from the great state of Arizona. We have a great show tonight. We have a lot of nice guests. This is going to be an election series, Saving America, and meeting the candidates of the Patriot candidates. Welcome to another episode of The Advocate 2021. And the stars of their show are the Code Wind Talkers, Darren Aquino, author of Seasons of Emma, and my father, Johnny Pizza Fratangelo, Vietnam veteran and author of The Last Goodbye. Darren, take it away.
Thanks, Nikki. Welcome, everybody. Yes, we got some great guests tonight. You're going to hear from a senatorial candidate, a governor candidate, and another congressional candidate who's my personal friend and dentist. And she's put her bid in to join the election to take back America from the hands of the criminals that it's in now. We all know what's going on. Freedom is no longer free. It wasn't free to begin with, but now we're not embracing our freedom anymore. So what are we going to do about that? We're standing up in America. So now tonight we have my chief medical officer, Dr. Michael Antominov. He's going to give us an update where we are with the COVID situation. He's also the partner with me in the CV19 America After COVID magazine. We have Israel Cruz. Okay, we're going to tell you about Israel. You met Israel a couple of times, and you haven't seen our candidate for governor in a little while. He's been busy campaigning around the state. Derek Gibson, the next governor of New York, and everybody else. Wait. I got another one. We're going to hit another topic too. We're going to tell you what's going on with the Last Goodbye book.com. Last Goodbye book.com. We're going to tell you about that. Our producer, our dear friend, who's been, me and Johnny and him have been on this project to bring to life the story of The Last Goodbye, a tragic story about our combat veteran hero and his cousin. When he was killed in Vietnam at 19, Johnny brought back the body, and they were there together serving in different places, and it was a tragic story. John covers that in the book of The Last Goodbye, and everybody knows where to go for that. I put the video up on my Twitter account today at Aquino for Congress, so that you can see it, and it's also on my Facebook, and it's here, lastgoodbye-book.com. The links are there. Dave Kaltenbach is the producer doing that, putting all of our energies and thoughts to bring life and a mini-series, not a movie. A movie will come later, but the mini-series will give a better depiction of what John, his family, and friends, and the sacrifice they made for country at 19 years old. It's going to be an incredible story, and we love Dave for jumping in and all of the things that he's putting together, and he's still working on some other things to help us get another platform for the Advocate 2021. So, Doc, are you there, Dr. Chief?
Yes, Darren, I'm here.
Okay, say hello to the audience. They can't wait to see you so you can update everybody.
Yeah,
Come back in.
Hello,
Come
everyone.
Dr. Michael Antominov, Chief Medical Officer at ADA, is going to update you. He has many board certifications. He's a very qualified and skilled physician in many areas of the anatomy. He's my friend. He's our Chief Medical Officer. And he's going to be our educator tonight on what's going on with this COVID, this new variant, and all this panic and hoopla. So, Chief, take it away. It's all you.
Well, hello, everyone. Glad to be here in such a fun company. And I'm a medical doctor, but by no means I'm expert in virology or COVID situation. I think most of the country is debating, the name and pronunciation of the new variant, how to pronounce it in the right way. And I probably know more about Greek than about this new variant, because nobody knows anything about that. I'm glad we skipped at least 10 letters of Greek alphabet. So we're going towards the end of the Greek alphabet. That's a good news. We have about 9 letters left. So maybe another year or so. As far as that Omicron or Micron, how they call it here, is it's a new variant. Nobody knows anything about that, me included. I mean, there is information that it has more um, infectivity, so to say. It's more contagious just because of the number of the spike proteins on the surface. But again, we had this situation before with the different variants, and it doesn't really mean that it's going to be more deadly or not. So nobody knows. As far as I know, there's been no single death documented in the world yet. So I don't really see any reason for panicking. Just like Darren, as we started back in February of 2020, when we actively got involved into COVID, if you remember,
Yes.
I had the same position that it's not about viruses, it's about us. It's about our immune system, about our strength to resist and defense. And I'm still holding the same position at this point. I don't see any reason to be super worried about this new variants. We don't know yet, of course. But the borders got closed. I worry about my vacation in 2 weeks. So I guess that's like everybody else. From medical standpoint, we don't know how to treat any variants. We've been told that vaccination is the best treatment for the virus, which I disagree with. So I don't, in a certain way, I don't represent your classic medical position on that problem. I certainly belong to the growing group of doctors and medical professionals who believed more in strengthening immune system and our defense against, environmental hazards, so to say, including pathogens such as a virus. And that's why we came up with many protocols, including oral supplements, including other treatments that cure virus very successfully. I mean, I cured my second COVID in October with laser in 3 sessions, and my antibodies now level is skyrocket, so I don't worry about that.
Wait a second. Explain that, Doc. You cured it with laser? What's that?
That's correct. So there is a treatments, we can talk about that later if needed, but there is quite a few treatments, well known, very natural, virtually no side effects, that can treat any virus. From a medical perspective, actually, virus is a very simple thing to treat compared to some other pathogens. So we deal with much more complex pathogens like Lyme disease, so on and so forth, that by definition are more complex and smarter. The virus is not that dangerous if you approach it in the right way. But if you approach it with vaccination only, that's certainly you're chasing the tail of the cat ahead of you. So it's not going to be a win.
Doc, I have a question for you. What do you think about the boosters that they're talking about, the booster shot?
Well, the official position is at this point is the following. You get your vaccination. The funny part in the United States, somehow nobody measuring the antibodies, meaning your defense level against the virus, your immune system. Everybody's going with, your kind of picture. If you belong to vulnerable population, you have a heart disease or blood pressure and so on and so forth, you deserve to be vaccinated and deserve to be boosted, so to say. You have another boost. Again, in Europe and some other countries, they measure antibodies, and based on your antibody level, they decide if you really need the boost. That's for vaccine in general, which again, in situation with virus, the vaccination is really not the mainstream, and it shouldn't be mainstream of treatment.
Hey, Doc, I want to tell you a little story I was just heard, okay? One of my best friends that I grew up with, he comes over every Friday night for coffee and cake and a movie, all right? Now, he just told me that last Friday that his cousin and his wife were coming home on an airplane, and they were sitting in the first row, and there was only 3 seats, and there was an old lady who was next to them by the window. They all had masks on. Now, his 2 cousins were vaccinated, okay? Now, the old lady next to them was coughing and sneezing, taking the mask off and spitting all over the place. She said she couldn't wear the mask. They were complaining about it. to make a long story short, they get home and they get the COVID, a serious case of it. Okay, so now they called another cousin of theirs, and he said, "Look, I'm going to give you a number to call and get the liquid hydroxychloroquine." So they did it. By the next day, they were feeling much better. So he stopped taking. He got worse again. So he started taking the hydroxychloroquine again, the liquid one. Okay, and they felt much better. Now their son had cerebral palsy. All right, so he caught it, and the hospital took him in. They wouldn't take the two people in, the mother and father, because they said they weren't serious enough. But they took the kid in, and they treated him with that other medication that they use. What do you call it?
The antibody thing?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, so he's okay. So now they're better. Now, my point is to bring, when Trump mentioned this in the beginning of the COVID, because he got doctors, and I heard a lot of doctors say the hydroxychloroquine is good, because I take it because I have Sjogren's syndrome, and I've gotten COVID. I had no symptoms at all. I believe that if the media would have listened to Trump, okay, instead of hating him so much that they dug everything that they dug at him, anything he said, a lot of people would still be alive if they would have took that hydroxychloroquine. Just like that mayoral candidate, that woman, she had it and she listened to Trump. She took the hydroxychloroquine and she got better.
Doc, what's your aspect on the hydroxychloroquine?
That's good that you mentioned that. As a matter of fact, yeah, they kill generic medication, basically. That's my position. They kill generic effective medication based on fraudulent information from fraudulent trial. The trial was done above 1,000 milligrams a day of hydroxychloroquine, which is extremely high dose. You don't need that dose. And of course, there have been side effects and so on and so forth. But bottom line is, look, I don't think it's less and less medical when I realize that's how much medical portion in all this was going on back in June. I kind of back off from all these talks and even COVID magazine that we created with Darren, because simply, everybody knows, I think it's medical portion of all of this is really less than 10%, in my opinion, okay? There is a financial portion, political portion. You guys will talk about that. You know much more about that than me. But the funny you mentioned President Trump, because we presented back in April, we created technology that we cure about 150 people with COVID. We presented it to BARDA, which is main research institution in charge of funds distribution for COVID. They based on UV, ultraviolet technology, all right, ultraviolet radiation of blood, all safe, no problem. We created presentation for President Trump. I was pretty sure he would stay for another, 4 years. And that's why I wasn't in a rush. The BARDA give us from April, they put us in the end of the line, and they give us the meeting to present this technology in September. And the first thing in September, they told us, even before listening to our technology, they told us, we don't have any funds left for this. Everything was used for the vaccine. So when President Trump mentioned, semi-jokingly or not, UV technology, remember ultraviolet? He was very close to, to hitting the truth on that. So yes, absolutely right.
Wow. We learn something every day from our chief medical officer. Anybody other questions? Any other questions?
Doc, I have another question. What do you suggest the audience to do to try to stay safe? And what are the healthier ways and the healthier methods of, like, such as vitamins, etc.? What do you think people should be doing right now to try to avoid it?
Well, first of all, we back in again in 2020, we created the protocols for mild to moderate cases. As far as I know, out of several hundred people who were using those protocols around the country, actually around the world, because we've been in touch with your doctors, nobody ended up in the hospital, not to mention that. So there is a certain ways you can protect your immune system by certain number of vitamins, and everybody knows that list now, and it's zinc and C and D and A and all those things. of course, you know, if you have natural immunity, that's probably your best protection. So, for example, I'll give you my, you know, personal example. When I was traveling back in February last year, you know, around the country, helping Darren to create a report of what's going on around the states, I got COVID, but it was completely asymptomatic. So if the test was positive, I had no symptoms whatsoever. There was benign, good old COVID that we don't have anymore. So, for example, in October of this year, and I didn't measure my antibody level. In October of this year, I got sick as a dog, which probably was Delta. Obviously, I cured it in about a week or so, but it was pretty bad. So my immune level now is 600 level antibody. So if you have this immune level, I really don't care what, and it's a natural immunity, not from vaccination. It's a natural immunity. I really don't worry that much. Now we're dealing with pieces of military creation. So we don't know. It doesn't follow the rules of medical, what we know from medicine, okay? So it's a different animal, clearly. It's designed differently. And, you know, so many patents protecting that. So there's got to be a reason. So the different pieces of that sequence of whatever it is, you know, can be dangerous. We don't know. So, but that's why my main point was you have to protect your immune system with certain levels of, you know, supplements and so on and so forth. Masks and all that stuff, they could be important in a certain environment, but certainly not on a regular basis. So, and there are treatments available for, if you get sick, the virus can be cured and eliminated in about 3, 4, 5 days. And it's very important because not everybody understands that. We're dealing with the two diseases. One is a viral attack. It's critical to kill within first few days, 5 days. But then after a week, if you miss that point, we're dealing with an immune reaction. And that's what the virus is designed for, to kill us by creating chaos in our immune system. We published the paper back in March of 2020 on the cytokine storm that everybody knows now about. And that's what kills people. It's not the virus, it's our immune reaction. So if you kill your immune system in a good shape, that's all. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody knows that I had it. Doc was also part of the people that were helping me, you know, not die from it. It was very bad from the underlying conditions that I had, you know, the COPD, the 9/11 stuff. But, you know, I still don't have a vaccine today, and I won't get a vaccine today. And my doctor and Dr. Mike, I'm not getting a vaccine, and that's that. And there's nobody going to make me get one. And hey, well, I want to ask Dr. Gordon something. One of the things, as a dentist, we saw all the panic. And because we have Dr. Mike, we have Dr. Gordon. What about the patients that had to come and have their mouth done? What was the challenges you had as a dentist with this COVID in New York?
I personally didn't have any challenges because in my office, we always, before COVID, way before COVID, we used all the precautions, protection. We clean after each patient. We used protective masks, shields, gloves. So we didn't do anything different.
Did any of your members get COVID? Any of your staff?
Yes, my girls had COVID. Yes, myself, I got COVID. Basically, I didn't know I had it. I just went to a doctor and he took my blood and said I had antibodies, and I didn't even know I had it. So I believe being exposed to a lot of viruses all the time, my immune system already has its own defense. That's only way I can explain it, why I didn't know that I had it, and I had it. So my opinion, yes, in healthy people, let immune system work. I believe in that, but people with underlying conditions, of course, it's important for them to be vaccinated.
Some people with underlying conditions can't get the shot.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, because I
I'm
had.
not in a position. I'm not a medical doctor. I wouldn't know that. I cannot comment on that. I just my own experience that in my office, my girls and myself, we had COVID and no treatment.
So you're in agreement. You're in agreement with the choice of the person to make their own medical choice, not to be forced to get an injection, right? I mean, as a candidate, you wouldn't want anybody to be taken against their will to say, hey, you're taking a shot or you're going to lose your job.
Yes, Darren, if 2 years ago somebody would tell me that in this country, if I don't have vaccine, I will not be let into the restaurant, I would say you have a rich imagination, because it sounded like my own country. I'm coming from Soviet Union, where no one asked your opinion. Everything was mandatory. I remember myself being at school. Doctors would show up at school, put children in line and just do vaccinations. And if somebody had a complication, it was oops. I would come home to my mother and I would say, Ma, we had the vaccine today. And my mother would say, okay, what can I do? So I would not really want that to happen to our children here. And I'm very concerned. But I cannot really comment who has to do vaccine or not. But I really, really believe that we have to have a choice.
Right. Right. Well, we had a choice before Joe Biden was here. His name was Donald Trump, and we had a choice. But before him, we had a choice. Even when we had that other guy, Barack Hussein Obama, even when we had him, we still had a choice. Okay. But, you know, I don't think, as I myself as a candidate, and Lana, you're my dearest friend for more than 15 years. It's going on 16 years already. And,
yes.
And she's a great candidate, and you're going to see more of Lana. And she's going to talk about her platform. But I was curious to know, because I couldn't go up, and I said, I'm going to come up. Lana, I got to fix my tooth. I need the crown over here where you did the root canal. Okay, come. And I don't come. So, you know, but I was curious to know how many people got sick in the office. Did the patients there on West Hempstead come in and infect anybody in the office? Were your staff infected in the office from patients, or were they infected when they were outside? Like, you know.
Darren, there is no way for anybody to know where initial infection occurred. It might be in the office, might be at home, in the store, anywhere. What's important that my girls are healthy, and we had no losses in the office, thank God.
Yes, thank God.
I heard patients, unfortunately, we work with people come, report somebody died, but those were just old people or people with really like underlying condition who were sick. Unfortunately, they passed away. But me personally, I didn't hear about anybody who is healthy who would die.
Well,
Darren,
yes. Go ahead. Ask a question. Ask Doctor a question.
I have another question, but it's for both doctors. How do they feel about the children getting the shots? What's their opinion about the younger people getting the shots?
I'm against that.
I really cannot comment. I'm not a medical doctor, but I believe that parents have to have a choice.
Let me put it this way, Lana. If it was your children and Alex was 10 years old now, say this was 15 years ago when we met, and they said, excuse me, Dr. Gordon, Alex is getting a shot today, and we don't need your permission. How'd you feel about that? And Michael. And they want to give it to Michael, too. How about that?
Put him at home. My concern with this vaccine that there is no one knows long-term effect. So as an adult, I got my vaccine. I'm a medical professional, even though my my antibodies level was very high. I went and got my vaccine because it's mandatory, because I'm a healthcare provider. But for
But you don't have any underlying conditions. You don't have any problems that the vaccine could go sideways on you. Because there you are aware that some people did get the vaccine and die. Where are you, Lana?
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm sorry. I don't know that somebody died from vaccine. I have no information like that. I'm not in the possession of that information. But for children,
Well, I get it. You're a dentist. I get that.
for my children, I would advocate to see long-term effect before administering something like that to my children. But that would be my choice for my children. And I believe every parent has to have a choice.
That's right.
Like that.
I agree.
We will accept you in the coalition for saying that you were this close. Whenever you challenge freedom, you're this close. And that's why we have another comrade here, my chief medical officer, just in case. Just in case you were swaying the other way. Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike.
Still here. Yeah, still here.
Well, we know. Is there anything else that we should know about any upcoming? Because I want to ask some other questions because we got some candidates. What are the challenges in your medical professions that they could ask? Because then we're going to talk to the producer after this question, and then we're going to go to Israel, and Israel's going to ask some questions as well. So what are the challenges that, like they're regulating, you know? We had all these regulations. We're going to be lawmakers. Lana will be a lawmaker with me. Oh boy, wait till they see us coming. So what can you say as lawmakers for regulation? I know it's not as strict as in dental, but what has changed in your professions, respective medical positions, even dental, because you're in contact with the public, that regulators came in and are shaking you down with all kinds of fines and restrictions? What Dr. Mike will go with you because you're on the medical side. What were the first restrictions and how has it affected your profession and your clients? Your business, period.
Well, I mean, it's a multi-layer question, Darren, of course.
You're a multi-layer guy.
As Lana mentioned, you know, the vaccination became mandatory for majority of the health providers. Right. I remember actually the interesting part when Pfizer announced FDA approval in August. Literally, I received email from 3 hospitals that I'm on staff the very next morning. So amazing collaboration and coordination between different hospitals. The very next morning, I received a mail from 3 hospitals from 3 different states that we give you 2 weeks to become vaccinated. And the letter says, if you not get vaccinated, no exceptions, you lose your privileges. And just
I remember you telling me about that. I remember you telling me that.
Just to tell everybody, losing privileges in medical profession and the hospitals leads to losing contracts with insurance companies and basically put you out of business. Unless you dentist and do the cash business. So,
But they,
one restriction at the personal provider level. And obviously everybody here knows what restrictions, or I should say limitations, this pandemic's put on the medical care. I mean, last year, the number of elective procedures that people needed dropped 70-80%. You know, nowadays everybody trying to catch up. So the price is going up. Malpractice insurance going up. Every expense is going up. The hospitals make more money because they need to compensate for the losses last year. So that's what's going on. On a personal patient's level, of course, you know, that coming to my office because that's the only way they can get out of the house to socialize in a way. So we all know, we're all patients at some point.
Well, if nobody's as privileged as me, I can call you from the house because I'm your best and favorite patient. I call it from the house if I'm sick.
changes in the world and in the healthcare part of that. It's just a part of that.
Dr. Mike, what bothers me about this whole situation is that they're putting demands on these people, the doctors and nurses and all the first responders who are there at the beginning, risking their lives every single day, 24/7. Okay. Now all of a sudden, this jackal that we have in the White House comes up with this law that if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to lose your job. Now that
Butch Jackal, are you talking about the one in the White House or the one that did that in New York City?
I don't
and said on the 20th they're going to be out of a job.
I don't want to get started on it. Anyway, but that's
good. The people want to hear your anger.
That troubles me a whole great deal, man, because these people risk their life, and a lot of them even died. And let's face it, they died. And now all of a sudden, they're going to lose their jobs because they're not getting vaccinated when they were on the front lines in the beginning, day after day.
That's right.
Well, yes. I mean, it's not a question. It's a statement. People say from heroes to zeros. So, and I know personally quite a few, especially mid-level, like registered nurses and so on and so forth, that really quit their job. They lost, the profession they spent their entire life in because they didn't want to do that. It's a complex situation. It's easier for me as a medical doctor to be on more well-rounded side of that. Hey, we need to protect our patients. We need to protect the society. I'm exaggerating. It's a little bit my personal position, but again, it's got to be well-rounded position. The angle that I have on that is the following. The point is, if we had the freedom of choice of treatment, then we wouldn't get to that situation that we're limited by vaccination only. That's my point. So let me do the treatment between me and my patient. If we sign the consent form, that's enough for us to make a decision about the treatment choice. But if we limit that treatment choice, then we have probably no choice other than get vaccinated. You follow me? So you choose the least devil, but you have.
Well, it should be between doctor and patient. I mean,
exactly. But as a medical,
that's how it used to be.
There's another aspect here because they're depleting their medical personnel. Okay, they were using the National Guard, the National Guard to come in and treat patients.
Well, that's a violation. That's a medical violation. I mean, these are untrained folks. Tell you, I mean, as an advocate, and one of these folks with an underlying condition, that brings me in the picture. What is that non-professional, unskilled, touching this person with a qualified disability, such as a respiratory condition? What are you doing putting your hands on them? And what risk? See, doctors are usually sterile, they're clean. And even Lana, when I go to see Lana, she's like all geared up, man. She looks like she came from outer space when I get there. And she comes and I'm in the chair like this. Ah! And she comes. But I know, but it's a violation. Lana, was you and your staff forced to be vaccinated over there in Nassau County?
Darren, as I said, I'm a healthcare professional. It is mandatory.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Did they mandatory your staff as well?
Yes, but my girls, they had at some point religious exemption. They brought everything to me that they're exempt because of their religion, because that was like a little loophole that our government gave them. I mean,
and then they washed it away. Biden washed that away. Crooked Joe moved it away.
Now I told them they have to be vaccinated, and some of them said that we are not going to come to work, and what they did, that's what they did. So it's very difficult, but that's what we have as of today. What I want to say that to add to the conversation before, my personal belief, instead of making everything mandatory, I believe that our government has to spend money on educating people, telling people what are consequences of them doing vaccine versus not doing vaccine, and let people to make informed decision. People have to be informed. What is that?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if they do vaccine, it's going to be good, but might be complications, as with everything in the medicine. But
We have a law that's called informed consent.
mandatory is very scary. People are afraid, especially people who are not educated. They are afraid and they do everything not to do vaccine. And some of them really need to be vaccinated, and they are putting themselves in risk because they're afraid of everything being mandatory, and they think that something is wrong with it.
Right. There are some folks that are throughout the history. I mean, some folks, I was never a vaccinated person. I mean, I got the basic ones as a kid. Look, I had the polio shot and I got polio. How about that? So as a kid, I mean, I think everybody that has club foot, after looking at the symptoms, after finding some new information, I believe every kid that's got a club foot has got polio, and there's some kind of link, and they'll probably find it now because just in my studying, but I'm not a vaccine person. You know, I pretty much endured a lot. My immune system, I had 17 surgeries, and I just get stronger every time. But when I got hit with this because of my respiratory, it took my breath away. I would say 2 words. I couldn't breathe. Doc knows it. And we had Roger, another doctor, a scientist, and they were telling me what to do. And Doc was telling me stuff, and I had to take quercetin. I had to take vitamin C. I had to take zinc. I had to use a blow dryer up my nose to kill the thing. And like, nobody was knowing these things, but Doc was telling me, the other doc was telling me, and my other doctor, Kavetny, all, you know, always tell me, all Russian doctors would save my life. It wasn't American doctors that saved me. I just want you to know that. But it was very bad. It was bad. I had to sit up because the thing they told me is don't lay down. So I sat up for 2 days over there in the corner in my room, and it was bad. John, I spoke with John, right, John? It was very bad. I could, after 2 words, I was out of breath. And like, I didn't understand. But, you know, they are putting restrictions, and it's not a surprise. The people who are on the side of the patients is their doctors, even the dentist. I'm her patient. Doc is I'm his patient. It's not a question. If we decide he's going to decide. We were just talking about something, my neck, and I need a medicine. He put it, you know, I need a moxicillin. Boom, take this syrup instead of this syrup. He makes a choice for me, which is best for me. I trust his opinion. I don't trust government making that decision. Not only do they not have a right, that's the beginning of the downfall of this country. The second one government officer says, this is what you're doing. That's what we have to stop right away, because they're in submission to our authority, and they've gotten away from that. I want to go to another topic because I want to first, Dave, do you have any questions for the doctors?
No, not right now. Just
okay.
Well, I have one.
Because we're the older guy. Who's got one?
Dougie, I got one.
Okay, Dougie. Yeah, well, DJ Doughie Fresh has got a question. We're excited. Come on, Dougie.
How you doing, Doc?
Doing all right, Dougie. What's up?
I wanted to know when my kids had to get vaccinated. They both all 3 of them got COVID. One of them didn't because they hung out with a friend. My question is the booster a good thought for them?
Look, I have to apologize. I'm certainly not an expert in current, development of especially pediatric vaccination. So I'll skip that answer. I'm sorry. I don't know the answer.
Okay, it's all right.
That's got to be a medical reason for that. And the booster has got to be some sort of medical logic behind that. So I can't really comment on that.
Okay.
And that's just because you're not a pediatrician, right? We don't specialize in pediatrics.
Everybody's different. So situation should be managed case by case. But again, the whole point, we have to have a choice of treatment.
Right.
The different
Yeah, I
treatment
believe so.
and discuss with your treating physician. That's my point.
Sorry. You know,
Well,
they have
that's
a,
what we were trying to do, trying to listen to the doctors and see what their doctors recommend. Uh, I wanted to thank you for answering the question as well as you could, and I I I always God bless you guys for really being out there and being on that front line fighting this COVID menace. It is these variants are something that just keeps on changing and evolving.
Yeah.
there's a rule, just so you all know, and I'm going to tell you what that is. And it could be applied if I was talking to Doc, me and Doc were talking because we were concerned because he's the chief medical officer of an advocacy, which fights for people to have service. Lana knows. Lana provided thousands and thousands of free service for the organization. She's been with me for 15 years. And the thing is, it's called the treating physicians rule. And it was developed in 1986 with the Social Security Administration in the Supreme Court. The state was sued and Social Security because a claimant was denied by the expert who only sees him for 10 minutes. Lana, I told you these stories, and Doc knows them too, but you folks don't know. They see the patient, you go for Social Security, you go sit in an office for 10 minutes, the guy looks at you, okay, you're not disabled. But they missed the whole point because in the treating physicians rule, it requires them, and this is how Social Security and the state get out of it, so the state can bill the federal government and send you for another IMA by not sending your medical record. So the guy's got to look at you and assess you instead of looking and verifying, where the treating physician gives the great weight to the treating physician. So if my doctor, Michael, says to me, Darren cannot get the shot, and that's it. Because then we would apply that law. See, a lot of people don't understand. That's a Supreme Court rule. And it's regulated because it was empowered from somebody being shot down, saying they were not debilitated, so they didn't have to pay them to their advantage. But the treating doctor said no. And their argument was, how can this guy assess me if he only saw me 10 minutes? He can't even discern a pain threshold. And needless to say, that's how I won my Social Security back in 1987, while Reagan was still president, and he was a great advocate for the disabled in the early days. But that's a rule that I'm ready. Me and Doc were talking. If the organization had to take a position, that's the position we're going to take, Chief. We're going with the treating physician rule, and they're going to eat crow, and we're going to feed it to them. Me and you will have the spoon while they're gone, and we're going to give it to Joe Biden first. So that's our approach. But anybody else got a question for us? I want to hear Israel. You didn't ask any questions. I was surprised, Dougie. I was happy Dougie asked the question, but needless to say, he asked a good question of the doc, and medical questions are good ones.
I actually do have a question. You don't
Go ahead.
If you can answer it, I don't know. Before, when you guys were talking about, how important it is to keep up with your immune system, what do people do if they don't have an immune system? If they're taking an auto-suppressant drug, so to say, or if they're on prednisone? I'm just curious your opinion.
Well, the official position, again, that group belongs to the vulnerable population, and with all, relative risk factors, they're candidates for vaccination. Because at this point, between the two kind of, factors, either get the virus with suppressed immune system or get the vaccine with suppressed immune system, everybody's medical establishment is choosing the vaccination with suppressed immune system. So that's the current official position. I certainly, in my practice, I'll talk on my personal experience. I certainly treat a lot of people with immunocompromised kind of diseases. So I don't get involved into the advice on vaccination for them. I always tell them it's your personal choice and choice of your treating doctor, what you want to do. But for those who have some sort of exempt or they decided not to go for vaccination, there are treatments that can protect immune system even for immunocompromised people, or treat the COVID with certain, natural treatments. That would be my response.
That's a good answer, Doug.
Well, thank you very much. I was just curious what your opinion was, because I know what, my doctors always say, get it, get it, get it. But you hear from other people,
Problem is that part, what we, like Lana said, the main part of why we all in doubt, we don't have a long-term data. Like vaccination is a serious business. In the history of vaccination for last 150 years, the shortest vaccination path was 3-4 years at least of clinical trials, of human clinical trials. Okay, so this is the first sample in the human history when we introduce potentially dangerous immune modulation, immune intervention, so to say, without data. As a matter of fact, there is some opinion among the professional virologists and immune specialists that, and we had examples of that back in the days when they vaccinated kids in Philippines. So the initial wave, when you vaccinate people, they protect against the viruses very well. But in a year or two, the immune system is so messed up and so weakened. It's like you're using crutches instead of your own muscles. So if something else will be introduced to that immune system, including different variants or different pathogens, the immune system won't be able to fight. So that's the main potential danger. We don't know yet. But look, now, even 1 year or almost 2 years from the first wave of COVID, we have more cases with more vaccinated people, right? So what's going to happen in 2 years with different pathogens? Those waves are going to keep coming. It may not necessarily be coronavirus or something else, but if you compromise your immune system or you give them a crutches instead of strengthening your immune system, who knows what's going to happen? That's the main danger. Nobody can answer that yet.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I appreciate you answering.
Sure.
Okay, I gotta, this is great. This is a great show tonight. And friend Dave, and then we'll get to Israel because he's been sitting here listening. I've seen him with his notebook. I see he's writing down his campaign question. Stop lying. I saw it. I saw you typing.
I don't have no notebook.
I'm kidding.
That's my cat.
That's it. That's your cat. I heard Lana's dog. She was getting up. She was choking the dog. Just mild. She just choked him quick. I saw it. I saw her lean over. That's here. She was so, what? What'd you say? No, he's very loving, caring pet owner. But I want to go to Dave Kaltenbach, our friend, and talk about the production, where we're headed, and just what's going on in his life, because I'm going to see him. I can't wait we're going to all be together on the 28th. So I'm looking forward to it. Come on, Dave. Tell us what's up to date. Tell everybody what you do. Tell everybody what you do. And if they're fortunate enough, he'll film your commercial for your campaign. You want him to do your commercial. And if you go see the last goodbye-book.com, you can see the video. I'm in it.
Darren
I'm in it.
In pizzas, right, John? I paid Darren in pizza slices.
Right.
Oh, great. There's
There it is. There's right. Look.
Oh boy. I'm a producer, director. I've been filming since '88. Went to NYU in the director's program and had TV shows. And then a friend of ours reached out to me in regards to John writing The Last Goodbye. And I hope all of you saw the 38-minute video commentary. I fell in love with John's book. I was right there in the bush with him. Fortunately, 2 weeks ago, or two or 3 weeks ago, I went up to see John again to do two things: to interview John with just the audio recorder, and then to film the Hudson River as the leaves turned colors. So John and I, we had a very good dinner, and I just placed the recorder there. And as a filmmaker, you want as much backstory as possible. And backstory is just, script writers may write backstory. It could be 1 page, 10 pages, or 25 pages on material that
That's right.
that the audience or the actor doesn't even see. So I just needed to get a little more out of John. I'm working with the co-writer who is currently working with Joe Pesci. When I spoke to Anthony Aquilino, he lives in Toms River, New Jersey. He's an elegant writer. He read John's book, and he helped me write a treatment. So a treatment is a vehicle to try and get the word out there about John's book. I will be optioning John's book, and for those who do not know what optioning is as a producer, you option the author in order to make that book into a movie. So that's where we're at right now. I can't say enough about John. I enjoy. I don't know. It seems that I've always had Vietnam in my blood because I knew friends that went there. I'm doing a historical surfing documentary right now, and I started surfing in the mid '60s. And the mid '60s, from '65 to I'd say '71, '72, the craziness of the world that we were going through with Kennedy and the music, Woodstock, it was, and then Vietnam. I'm trying to use this. When I was surfing, all this other stuff was going on when I was a kid. So I've been reaching out to other people to help me along, especially with music, about what John went through. So right now we're in the phase of, we have 24 pages completed for the screenplay, and then it's just a matter of passion. And right now we do have the video commentary playing, and then we also have a treatment, and then I'm going to come up with ways we could try and solicit and bring in funds to have this movie, this book made into a movie. There's all kinds of platforms now. So once we get a little closer with the treatment is done, a little closer with the screenplay, I'm going to see a little daylight. Now, what Darren was talking about, I'm producing 2 things right now, a reality show and my documentary. And I'm on 7 different platforms, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You don't know the equation to really get this out there right now. So we're going to try everything. This week I have a meeting with a woman that will be setting a channel up for me on Roku. And we could put John's commentary on there. And once word gets out there, then we'll see where it goes from there. So
one of the things that, so you understand, like he said, this other person, John came to me because I was good friends with his cousin, and this was way back. And we talked about, because it was for other reasons. It wasn't about the book, but the book was mentioned. He can't sell it, and he had some stuff. Maybe you could help him. So when I got to John, and we took off like family, it's old school thing, Italian thing, from the Bronx. And when we got together, and I got the book and read the book, I was campaigning. He was sending me books to give to these other veterans. A lot of stuff was going on. And going through the book, we had this partner who I got rid of, who actually stole our money. our investment. That's called Van Nivius III. And he interfered with our magazine. But we need to say that was Code NYC magazine. We're trying to take that from him in lieu of also the things that the over $40,000 in cash money that he got $50,000 in cash money, aside from taking money for sales in the book. But when I went to, I wasn't going to ask Carl, but Carl told me when I told him about the book, and I said, I want to find somebody because I want to make this a movie. This is a movie, and I was telling John, this is where we can go. We were throwing things back and forth because John, being I was an actor, he was trusting my thoughts. So I wanted to find guys like Dave, producers, because this is a story. After you read a few pages, you could start to put the storyline together and like scenes. You start to build scenes, you know, you start to storyboard it. So the blessing that came out of the horrible, treacherous partnership with Carl Van Nivius III and Ruben Borges, that all it was stealing money from us on websites. It was horrible. It's a nightmare, but I'm dealing with that. We got time frames and I got so many things pressing. But when Dave came along, he was the answer to what we wanted, the direction I wanted it to go. And he's not only a good guy, he's trustworthy. We had people around us that were not trustworthy. And, you know, and it's just a horrible nightmare. Money was coming out of our pockets, not big money. We had a big hit. But even when I wasn't looking, he's telling John to give him money. I said, what are you doing? And needless to say, we got to this point where he brought Dave, we got together and to help bring my vision for John's book to be more than a book, because John just thought it was going to stay there, you know, and just he wanted to just sell the book. I saw something bigger, you know, when you see the story. And coming from a family of veterans, growing up, it's our culture, the Italian culture, and I'm both Latino and Italian. So looking at the culture and knowing that my nephew and serving, you know, and looking at his awards and the little recognition he got for the big sacrifice he made, that wasn't good enough for me. You know, I always, Ray knows me. When it comes to fighting for people, I fight. Lana knows it too. I go in, and you're not getting out of there until at least I had a chance to fight you. You're not leaving. And so we got Dave, and I told Dave, you know, I see this place going. You know, Carl tried to circumvent me and make it like this is Carl, you know, but it was me and John at all time. And then we got Dave. That's why all of us said, Carl is out. We are going this way. So
you know, Darren, the John's book could go either way. You know, we could turn this into a hour and a half, 2 hour movie or episodic, and that's what, you know, with everything going on right now with Peacock and Amazon Prime, and,
right.
Netflix, you know, they're looking for episodic stuff.
That's why I said
the material.
That's it.
You know,
that's why I said
think
the miniseries.
John's movie would be, you know, an action-packed thriller.
No doubt. It's absolutely a miniseries. Remember, Carl, when he was still sticking his nose at, this has got to be a movie. I said, no, you're wrong. This is a movie later, miniseries now. The miniseries depicts John, who he is. The movie just tells another war story. The miniseries tells you about John, his family, the relationship with his cousin. That's what me and Dave are trying to bring out, that we're all like, I'll tell Dave, Dave will talk to Anthony, and you know, and me and John talk all the time. You know, when we talk about it, we go over it, and then we'll call Dave and everybody, you know, we head a direction. And then Dave initiated and took this to where the next step, like he said. But that's how it started. It started with a thought, his book, and meeting people to take it. The book in itself is a great book. But like anything else, without who you know, or this, you know, you'll go nowhere, right? You go nowhere. And it could be the greatest thing. But if you don't get the exposure you need, you're not going anywhere. Especially in the movie business. I don't have to tell you, Dave will tell you, most competitive business ever, right? It's who you know, what you know, and to get to be a big star. I mean, if I would have kissed a lot of butt and did that, I don't do that. That's not the kind of actor I am. I don't work that way. You know, I wouldn't take parts where in Oz, where, you know, you had to go swinging out there with your stuff and your junk out, bump up to this guy. Nope, I'm not doing that. Thank you. Nope, I'm not. That's not the kind of actor. I'm more like the Paul Newman, Jackie Gleason kind of guy. Really artful, where I don't have to be naked. I mean, that's, I want to act. I don't want to show. There's a difference of acting and showing. Right, Dave? You know,
Yeah.
I'm an actor's actor. I'm not show you.
You was trying to give them a peep show.
Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
wanted.
That's what they
Darren-
want. They wanted that on Oz, and I said no. Ray remembers when I worked on that show.
Darren, I got a question for Dave, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Dave, how do you get yourself in the frame of mind to do, you know, what you do and to be involved in so many projects? How do you manipulate all that? Just out of curiosity.
You know, right now I've been shooting a reality show since June 1st. I just took on this other documentary. I used to just concentrate on one project. As long as you're organized and you're focused, and I have different tricks. You know, there are screenwriting programs called Final Draft, for example. But I have another program that's called Storyboard or Story, and it builds a timeline for you. So
Oh
with
yeah, that's
a
really
script
good.
that I'm writing,
That's a good program. The storyboard.
yeah, with the script that I'm writing, with the surf thing, and then with John's, and also this reality show, you build the timeline with Story, and by you building, let's say, little building blocks. You know, when I say, all right, I'm going to focus in on that and write that part, you just, you know, you start off that way, and you always have to stay focused. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, because the average people like myself that's not involved in theater, as Darren and yourself are, they always like wonder, you know, you go and see a movie and like, wow, you know, how did this guy like really like put himself in this position or whatever? What is some of your tricks that you do to keep, you know, the storyline going with that suspense? And do you credit that to your success?
You know, when with an actor, when he's on one project, he stays on one project because you can't get out of character.
Yeah.
I'll use as an example, you know, you could shoot a movie and you could flip around and okay, we're shooting there, we're shooting there. One of the only movies that has shot in chronological order, just as the screenplay, was A Beautiful Mind. I don't know, you know, with Russell Crowe.
I worked on that movie as background. I worked on
Russell
that.
Crowe is about John Nash, right? And Ron Howard directed it. Well, Russell Crowe in the pinnacle going up became really totally crazy and insane. And then they had Ron Howard, if they had 12 shots in the Princeton Library, they could have done it all within a week and not leave. But because of Ron Howard's brilliance, he didn't want Russell Crowe to leave that character as a professor and then getting some paranoid, delusional schizophrenia. So out of all the movies, that is one movie that Ron Howard, page one, you know, and if they had to return to the library 12 times, they did. To answer your question, I'm very careful on how many projects I take on until they're done, because, you know, as an actor, as Darren, if you got out of character because you're thinking about another project, you know, it bleeds through the screen that you're not fully encapsulated.
You're not devoted to it. Yeah, you're not devoted to the character, and you must be devoted to it because, you know, you're in your craft. That's who you are. That's who he wanted you to be.
I have the help of another guy that I bounce things off of him. I'll speak to John. I'll speak to Darren. But my co-writer and I speak quite often, and we're building this timeline. You know, and that's, I could do that when I need a breather from the other projects.
Now, what got you interested into the field that you're at, and what pointers could you give to like younger people, the younger generation, to go in your direction in the future?
Well, the craft is a very passionate craft. You have to love it, and you need another job. I was always a commercial.
A real job.
I've always been I've been an artist, and
A
surfing,
waiter, everything.
surfing controlled my life. So in 1988, I was on a surf trip in the jungles of Costa Rica, and I was chasing these animals in the jungle, and I just said, wow, I wish I had a camera. And after that, I bought a $1,200 camera. When I bumped into howler monkeys in the canopies of the jungle. And since then, I fell in love with this craft. But I always had money coming in doing my commercial art. And then I started stealing money to buy cameras and editors and audio. Mm-hmm. And now it's over. The production business is overridden my commercial art business, but I'm still in it because I can't just film and edit and do all kinds of stuff. I want that physicality also.
That's a great tip. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Dave we're looking so forward to doing John's project. Like he said, we talk about it, how my first thought is like I talked to John about it first because it's a period piece. And we want to highlight who John is, who's Anthony, because you can see in the book, that's Anthony. How do we bring that to life? There's a lot of different ways to do it, so that's what we're working on.
There hasn't been a Vietnam movie in quite a while.
In a very, very, very long time.
And I just saw the fine thin line or the fine blue line, and about World War II. Nothing like how we're going to do our timeline with John's book.
All right.
So,
quick question. Are you going to be doing anything like what they did in the Titanic, where the woman would show up and she spoke about her life and maybe flashback and things like that?
Not necessarily.
2021 on YouTube.
Not necessarily. We're tossing around the idea that the book revolves around John's love for his cousin, and then his cousin visiting him after he was killed,
and his service, of course, and growing up to that spot.
Yeah.
But it's like when I was editing a full-length feature movie and it was so linear, I didn't like it. And then I watched Crash, the movie Crash.
Yeah.
Back in 2005, 2000.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And, and it was all
the way they looped it.
Yeah,
they looped all over the place.
Together. So I don't, with something like that, you don't want to confuse the audience. But with John, we're going to be going with flashbacks. It's hard to say right now, but he's in the bush, he's out of the bush, remembrances. It's going to be it's going to be a psychological thriller sometimes, and then it's just going to keep you on edge of the seat that you won't want to get up and take a pee.
The reason why I asked you is because I figured you would put John in the movie, like somebody was talking to him, interviewing him, and then he would say, "This is what happened." And
you mean a cameo by John?
Yeah, something like that, where he actually
we have a different thought for that. We do have a different
the one
thought.
thing you have to be, I'm very original. I mean, somebody suggests we open up at a graveyard cemetery with flags going, but they've done that in Private Ryan.
No.
So we have to be totally different. No, because in this business, they're going to say, "Oh, he stole that scene from such and such."
That's what they do. They steal from everywhere. Every movie borrows from everybody.
But you can't steal a certain part when it's scripted. It's very different. You only get away. So a couple of lines meets it, you're out. It's stolen.
But I think I think John has such a unique story, and that people have to hear and have to see and have to visualize what really happened. Not what Hollywood portrayed, but what John saw.
But
You know?
we're talking about opening the movie. We're talking about opening.
Yeah.
When I thought
Right,
about
but
opening.
that's what I'm saying. You know, like all the movies are always, like he said, you know, the flag or something. You know, John's a hero. You know, so you know it should be, you know, something like.
No,
you know,
you're not going to see that. You're not going to see that until later because you don't get to know John. It has to go backwards.
Right,
Me and Dave, we're talking about a spot, me and John. And we're going to pick a moment, you know, where he's there and he goes back in time so that you could read the clock with him. You understand? You don't want to open in that scene. It's like me and Dave talked about.
There's so much flavor in John's book that, you know, okay, he's in Vietnam, but remember his boot camp antics or something. And then him growing up in the Bronx, you know, it'll be
Right.
his story through the POV, the point of view of really you're going to be in that foxhole with John and when he gets shot.
That's right.
No, I totally agree with you guys.
But the thing is, at the beginning, we want to get you there. You understand? When you watch a movie and when you're an actor, okay? Like I was thinking, first we got to find a guy that can meet John Standing. That's going to be a hard search. Let me tell you right now.
I'm here. I'll do John.
Okay. It's going to be a hard find. Dave knows it. When you know John, he's not easy to replace. We're going to have to go to the ends of the earth to find a duplicate. But when I want to tell my vision for it, and me and Dave talked about, I listened to the producer because I'm in there as a producer with this, and John, to get people in. My version was we start back at the death. It opens up with him getting ready to go what's about to be. And then he goes back in time while he's in transit. You see him there, they hear the plane, you see the casket. That's just one thought. And then me and Dave were talking, you know, he goes back. And he goes back to his childhood when, you know, and when he's hanging with his cousin in the Bronx, you know, and there's so many places to go, so much flavor to it. You know, we're going to go back to boot camp day. We're going to go back to their last date when he got the car. And we're going to go to another part that John.
Let me just interject, you know, what John suggested for the opening of the movie, and I think it's a great idea, and
absolutely,
Anthony and I have worked on it, is John, you know, we all grew up playing army in the streets, down the swamps, or, you know, around the house, taking sticks. And John called me up and he says, I have a good idea, and it's about him as a kid playing army in the streets of the Bronx. And then we zoom, you know, he's doing, you know, and then we zero in on his eyes and all as a kid. And then all of a sudden he's now in Vietnam. So that's called the transition that's getting us there. And within a heartbeat, you know, his childhood. And then now you're in Vietnam, you know, it's the Vietnam War. And then back and forth.
And then back and forth. It's going back and forth into his time and his mind while he's transporting back. You understand? Because he don't get hurt until after he brings his cousin back. He doesn't get his injury. So there's a story within a story, and then there's his friend. So there's a lot of flavor. So we're trying to figure out where do we begin. A lot of wiggle room. You know? Oh, there's plenty. But to depict John, you understand? This is John's story. So, you know, the other parts are great. It's John telling the story about his cousin. You understand? And how it impacted him. And like later when we like, you know, in a mini series, the last part of it is like the little 36-minute that you're going to see. That's what I want is the last episode, you know, because that's John telling the story. And then you see all the other actors. The last episode is John. You know, I'll fill in a lot with Dave and there's so much here, you know, and all of our background and our cultural beliefs and Dave's experience and mine, we're just going to help John bring it out. Because John's got to be there for every scene. John is the key. You understand? When we're sitting there, me and Dave are saying, how about this? John's got to critique it. And Dave and Nick, we got to bring it to life with the cameraman. We got to bring it to life. And that actor better have it or it's next. Because you got to portray John. And, you know, so when they see the last piece, you know, and they see John, they're going to say, wow, that's good casting. How many times have you went to the movie and said, wow, that's good casting? That's what we got to get because he's playing him. This is not, you know, this is this. You see, when you see John and you look at John and you go through the story, you know, this is going to be the greatest Vietnam film, but it's not so much a Vietnam film.
Right.
It's a period piece.
It's about a good Italian
That's right.
family. John takes
That's
off.
right.
And
That's
the pinnacle, the climax, you know, the whole story spine and the pinnacle and the climax, I believe, is going to be when John shakes his cousin's hand and then he goes off to eternity.
That's gonna be the kicker. And then he comes back and he tells his aunt too, when she has a vision. There's even more. That's gonna be climactic. And then you're gonna see him get shot. And again, another climax to the movie. Holy shit. And then you're gonna look, he's 19. He's not 25, he's 19. And all of that matters. All of that matters. And so me and Dave, and we go over with John, and John doesn't think that's like no big deal. You know, I would have did it anyway. You know,
it definitely should be a good movie to come out now, especially with all the young people. Not, you know, they don't even know what the hell most people went through it back in the days. They don't even know how to screw in a light bulb, let alone take a bullet in their body. So,
right.
Especially
something that needs to be seen.
Especially at 17, 18 years old, you know, most of the kids, they're running around at that age. They're not dodging bullets and saving people's lives. It's a good point.
Yeah. So it would be a good thing to show a contrast between the past.
Yeah.
It would be a good way to show a contrast between the past and what we're going through now, so that, you know, people like, oh, my freedoms, this, they don't even know what the hell they're losing versus what they had back in the past. Yeah, there was problems, there was issues, but
it's pretty shocking that John was a kid. You know, I mean, when I was his age, I was surfing. I think on my surf trips, I'd say, well, my dad, I'm 22, I'm surfing somewhere in this exotic place. Yet my dad fought in Europe for 7 years, you know, and John fought.
Yeah.
And people can't be disconnected.
I was getting married at 19, my first marriage. I was just about, you know, young guy, not directed anywhere, hanging out with some people in neighborhoods and trying to find out who I was, you know. But
could you imagine? I was born in 65. I wasn't even here then. And to see a man that went through what he went through to survive Vietnam, to talk about Vietnam, and then go through the aftermath of Vietnam is totally incredible. America needs to see this.
He's extraordinarily survived. I mean, being a guy that my brother's friends, they were just a little bit younger. They went I think it was the third wave. So they was like in 67, 68 that they went, right? And I remember them because they're my brother's friends. They were I hung out with their younger brothers. And we remember when they went, he came back, and one of them, he brought back his friend's camera to give to the parents because he got blown up. But they came back messed up. They was getting high every day, and then some of them died in car accidents. But you look at John, and you don't see any of that.
That's a resilient man, a very resilient man.
That's saying, you know, but
it's a lot of belief, it's a lot of culture, it's a lot of foundation in a man where his belief. Some people could do what he's done, and it's part of life. They accept it, and it's, you know, listen, we're here, we got to do what we got to do, and that's it. And you don't take it home with you. You're there. Right. This is the enemy. That's it. It's not personal. A lot of folks don't have the discipline, or maybe they're feeling, because when you're fighting for your country, you're patriotic. I mean, look, if I go there, I wouldn't have a problem. Maybe I'm crazy, but, you know, I come home and it wouldn't bother me if I had to do what I had to do. You know what I mean? Because it's how you look at it. You know,
But-
some young boys had to kill people, and it's not easy to kill. It's how you look at that, though. I mean,
Right,
they're
but-
enemies. You're gonna die, or you do gonna die. It's a
I-
choice. It comes
Yeah.
down to somebody's got to go. Do you want to be you or the enemy?
Right,
Even
but I
Dougie,
also
when he was
wanna-
in Desert Storm, it's you or the
Right,
enemy.
I was just gonna say, I don't think any war of any, whether it
No
was
war.
Desert Storm or anything, but you look at what John went through, it's incredible. Just incredible that the man walks and talks and that he has his mind together. Most people would not be able to adapt after that type of experiences.
My
John-
uncle came back from Vietnam and he was never the same. Let me tell you, that man had to take medication. He had
Most
to,
are.
he could hardly function, let alone have a good communication enough to write a book or say what he went through. He would just say, I saw stuff, I don't want to talk about it, just, and it was hard for me
The
to
only
see him
other
like,
guy, I know, like my cousin, John is my cousin, and John spoke with and communicated, the colonel, and he did Vietnam too, and he did 30 years, so he did a lot of wars and CIA in the mountains, and that's an incredible thing. But he saw the worst part when he was a boy too. They had like the same age. My cousin's the same age as him, and they were there around the same time. So the colonel didn't get affected, and I didn't see John. But I saw my brother's friends die from drugs, and while I was in my 20s, growing up, they perished. It was a hard war, and some died from the Agent Orange, because there was a neighborhood of kids, a neighborhood. They grabbed 7, 8 kids out of there, out of our neighborhood in the 50s, East Side Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan. So when I look at John, and his character, and that's why you see what as a creator, as an actor, and me and Dave working to bring this where it needs to be, creatively going back and forth of the versions of John that it can go many different ways. All of the content's going to be there. It's a matter of how we're going to unfold it. That's the key, unfolding it, because me and Dave said, yeah, wouldn't that be great? Like when I said, we'll open up, we'll go backwards. That I was determined. Me and John were talking, I think it's got to go backwards. We can't start with a movie. The movie could be the second thing. Mini series of this will make the movie a big smash because they'll say, wow. And then you could highlight more the cousin scene, John fighting, going in and saving his fellow American comrades. That's the action movie of an American hero. So we're not finished with miniseries. That's the first step. And then, I want John to do more, but we get that miniseries. He does 5 seasons. It becomes syndication, 5 years. It's syndicated. It's a little legacy for him and the family, for all of us. If I would have, and in this entertainment business, they love me on SVU. I came in season 2. And if there wasn't interference from casting and people out to get my job, I'd still be there, right? They love me because they want to go down Rails. The producer, Ted Kochoff, he loved me. He said, Darren, you're great.
The bottom line is that you guys have the passion. You have to have the passion, for anything in life. If you don't have that passion, then you might as well just,
John has the passion. John would say to me, I don't understand. That's you and Dave, that stuff. I says, no, you do have it. You wrote the book. The passion is there. And we just help him bring it out. That's what me and Dave do.
I just wish that the younger generation of today would have the passion as we had. I just don't see that anymore. That's
the only thing we do to this book, and Dave will tell you, the only thing we do to the script is give lines to the characters and take all of the scenes in there. So the dialogue has got to be written, and it starts with John. John's going to tell us that scenario, and then that's got to go down. And then there's, of course, other stuff. But I mean, that's where it comes in, because this all revolves around John's life. This is a day, a week, a moment. This in his life, and then we're going to bring it to life. And when you see it, as me and Dave see it, and I didn't meet Anthony, I spoke with him, but you know, and then John told me, you know, he went and sent me the corrections because we were all headed down that direction. And then John wanted to and that was good because, and you can even add that, and then still add of him opening after the playing guns, because we all played guns in War Army at the little construction sites or in Long Island, on the mountains or up in the Bronx, in the mountains. In that time, there was dirt, there was construction, and we played there. And then you go there, and then you go to out, and then he's out in the war, and then you come back, and he's out with his cousin going to the dance.
Nothing is written in concrete.
Exactly.
You know, that we have the treatment, we have the script, and things change. You know, it doesn't. You know, as a director, you have a vision, and you realize sometimes, well, that's not going to work.
It changes right on spot.
Especially telling, you know, twisting the stories around. Some directors, like Steven Spielberg, every scene is storyboard. It's drawn out by an animator. You know, like, you know, it's amazing how, you know, big Hollywood's got hundreds of millions of dollars. We're not going to be doing that.
We're going to do a job. We're going to put this together. And you're going to know, because John's going to make his mark, and we're going to help him make that mark, because it's a privilege for me and Dave to be on a heroic story like this. This is a real story. This is one that is yet tragic, but very heroic.
But it also tells about a 19-year-old kid getting married while he's in the service, and a kind of a bad marriage that he went through. You know, so it has a lot of.
See, we have a lot in common, John. We have a lot in common. I was the same age too, and it was just a marriage that didn't work, and you know, it's just so much, you know. Yeah, that's it. It's you. It's 19. That's the whole thing we're showing them. A boy still figuring out life, doing a man's job, thrown into the middle of a war, and now you got to defend yourself. And then tragedy hits. Did you ever think tragedy would hit your family like that? Right? Did you ever think that? Not ever. Who thinks that? Imagine you're away, your cousin, he's on the other side, you're making letters to him, you know. That's the last thing you're hoping. You have an inkling, you know, like a little bit of fear that, oh, geez, I hope he doesn't, you know, but he's strong, he's good, we're good, we can fight the enemy. And then that tragedy happens. It wasn't an enemy who shot him, he got blown up. So, I mean, what do you do? The tragedy and misery of that, and capturing that and the sorrow. And when John comes home and his aunt, she has a feeling, the mother, she has a feeling, John's got the feeling, and they bring that another moment. It's got some spirituality in it.
I think the most amazing thing with John's book is that after 53 years, he decides to write this. You know, remembering the names, remembering what he ate, remembering all that stuff is, I mean, that's extraordinary.
Yeah, that's key.
I wrote it 50 years ago, David. I wrote it.
50 years ago.
Right, I just had it tucked away.
Okay.
I had
but
notes.
You still had to dig deep into that vault of memories to pull that out and actually start picking up and writing that first page, John.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had notes like this, and when I reading over the notes, I kind of filled in on them more, you know.
John said to me, he can't act. I said, yes, you can. You wrote that book. Right, Dave? Right?
Yeah.
Where you get that? John, he got that from down deep. He had to go in there and get it out.
John, the beautiful thing about acting is that you don't have to portray anyone else but yourself. So since you're playing yourself, act like yourself.
Right.
That's
right. Well, in this particular piece, but when you act, that's the whole idea. Acting is reacting. Yeah. But as somebody else. And then you have to learn who that somebody else is, and you have to study them. It's not as easy as you think.
That's the beautiful thing about the person that's going to play him. If there's a person that plays him, they have the character right there. Yeah. You understand? They have his, they can pick his brain.
That's the idea. Well, they will, but we have to find first his body type. You know, this young, brawny Italian young man. He was no joke. You know, we got to find that. We could find one that looks like, but ain't got no talent. We can't use him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's got to be in a culture. Well, you know, he could adapt to the culture. If
You know
he's
what?
an actor, he knows what to do.
You know what you could do? Just put it in after the movie's built in. Just put it in with CGI.
No?
Well, you know, when you brought back about introducing John in the movie, it's like what's come to my mind now is Schindler's List, that the movie is done, and that at the end, Spielberg has them dropping a stone, and you know the actual survivors. So,
Yeah.
you know, that is one, you know, avenue we could take to like get John in there also at the end of the movie. Not that we're
Absolutely.
going to be using him like
Right.
Rose in Titanic.
Yeah, that's what I was looking
Exactly.
at. Maybe that's what
Yeah.
you're planning on
You
doing.
don't want to do that.
No.
You know, you want to preserve the integrity of the art that we're presenting. You know, at the end piece, you get to hear him tell. You know, we show the footage where this is him, and then whatever else we think. You know, but at the end, you're going to see the work that Dave did in the thing, because that's what inspires the miniseries. All of our communication just solidifies what we already were there for. You know, the book, the story, the man, needing a man. And now we're all going to get together and sit in this cold winter. I can't wait to feel some cold air. And then we're going to eat. We're going to have a nice, Dave, you've never been down Rails, right?
No.
You're going to have a blast. John, you've been down, right?
No.
You either?
No.
Oh,
Me
shit.
neither. Let me stop.
Oh, then this is going to be a treat. And the guy, my friend, is insisting. He's taking all of us, especially you, the combat veteran. He says, Darren, it's on me. I told you. I said, no, you're my guest. These are my friends. No, he said. And then he sent me a check for the holidays for the organization. You know, so I'm looking forward to that. And as we'll talk about some more. And then I want to talk about Dave. We're going to see. And we didn't get to talk to our other candidates. Gee, they're probably mad at me. But this is a whole series we're doing on the candidate this election. And we wanted to talk about things that you could do, like filming commercials, little bit pieces. So we have one candidate left. I don't count I'm family, so you can talk to the candidate. He gets a whole different
get
deal.
out of here. I'm gonna close off. I've been up since 4, so
Oh God, yeah, me too.
Right.
So we're gonna let folks sign out, but we're gonna get back and we're gonna have this series, and I'll see you, Dave. Thanks for coming on to us.
Thank you. God bless you all.
Thanks. Love you, Dave.
We love you, bud, and we'll see you soon. Okay, now we'll get to who's that? Is that Dr. Mike still with us? Chief. I hear you, Chief. Chief.
I was gonna say something about the what you call that, the virus that before. I don't know why people think this virus is actually a natural thing, because I want to say this very logically, and then think about this very well. If you put a patent on a virus, it's man-made, because you can't patent something that's natural. Just think about that for anybody who's out there that hearing Dr. Fauci or anybody saying, we didn't make this. But if you got a patent on it, somebody made it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's correct. So as we come to the close, we've been on for an hour and 34 minutes. We're going to have a series. This is a series. It was an introduction of the candidates. We're going to have more candidate talk, and we're going to come back, and you're going to get more discussion, because you didn't get to hear from candidate for governor. You know that he's there, and with all of the talk, we may have to make the room smaller. And but you got to see who's there, and then there's going to be a whole series throughout this year, and we're going to be presenting to you the candidates in the coalition, the ones that could make the cut. So we had some communications issues, but we're getting better as we go. And, you know, we're happy that you joined us here on the Advocate 2021. It'll be the same thing next year, but 2022. You know, we also want to remind you, as we were talking about this great project, The Last Goodbye, and how it came to fruition and where we started off. We went from book sales to miniseries. Well, I went to miniseries. Originally, a third person that's no longer with us. We got rid of him because he's a criminal. And I'll say his name again, and it'll be hashtag Carl Van Nivius III, the editor and creator of Code NYC magazine, who stole $45,000 from me, plus and then some. He did it with Ruben Borges, and we will get them. We will bring them to the law because they embezzled that money. And Ruben embezzled over $1,000 and tried to shake down the co-host. We don't tolerate that. And my websites are down because of him. But I brought them back up. I had to invest more money in that. And it's a criminal act. Ruben Borges lives in Flushing. He has this studios. We're going to be posting that up there with his photograph and Carl's photograph so that you avoid these people. And then whatever the law decides to do for interstate fraud, embezzlement, I don't know. I had to file a complaint here because he took it through cash apps, and we have the bill, and he stole the money, and he's going to pay, whether I got to go collect it in New York or whatever. And Carl Van Nivius III, he's going to pay as well. And that's all there is to it. We got 3 years for court. But I don't know, when you steal the money in an app, that's different. That's embezzlement. So that's a little different, but we're working on that now. I spoke to the chief of the sheriff's department because I'm in Collier, so they can swear out a warrant for him and bring him right back to Florida and make him pay and put him on and arrest him because of the manner in which he took it. You understand? Saying he defrauded a consumer because his company, he put it through his studio for his company, saying he's going to provide this when he did nothing. He moved it, didn't do anything. He took $600. Then he tried to pitch John for some money too. And then he tried to take money from Israel, or he did take money from Israel, saying, yeah, I'll build your websites. He's a thief. And Ruben Borges is a thief. And we're going to put up his address, his photograph, and you're going to see it with Carl Van Nivius. You're going to see it. We're going to hashtag it, and it'll be everywhere. And then until the police catch up with them. But that's what we're doing here. And we had a great show tonight. Ray, anything going on? John, anything you want to tell us? You had some questions for the doc, and anything else you want to tell us?
No, that's it for tonight. Kind of late.
Yeah, it was an early day, and we had tried trouble getting people in. And I hate starting like that. But on the rest of this series, Saving America, the election edition, this is going to be throughout the year. And what we may do is tape and go into 2 hours, and there'll be 2 parts. Because, you know, when you got so many folks, 5, 6 folks on, it's hard to get to all of them in an hour. And sometimes it's too hard to watch 2 hours of one video. So we're going to make it in 2 parts. I was talking with our EP and my co-host about that and making it 2 parts. Like we'll stop, reintroduce the show, and continue part 2. So next week, you're going to see some of the folks. Maybe Taylor will be here. I know she was tied up with some things with this January elections for the State House. And we're going to see, because we were looking forward. See, we're human here.
You okay?
Tired. We get tired. We yawn. And this is The Advocate. Thanks for joining us on Another Advocate. Be sure to go to Aquino for Congress.com, and then you could go to Israel.
Israel for Senate.com.
IsraelforSenate.com, and you can go to DJ Doughie Fresh for a fresh glass of orange juice.
Hey.
And we can get Teddy. Maybe we can get Israel. Maybe we can get you back next week with Derek.
Yeah.
We got to do that. My apologies to candidate for New York City Governor Derek Gibson. He's got the campaign that's going to make a difference in New York. We're going on the road. We are taking the coalition on the road. Lana will be with us. Tonight we had Dr. Michael Antominov, the chief medical officer, who has an office coming down here in Boca. He's got one up in Pennsylvania, where Advocates for Disabled has an office within his office, and he's our chief medical officer. and my personal physician, along with my other one. The one thing, you can never have too many doctors or accountants. Lawyers, well, I defend myself with the law. I don't need lawyers because I don't trust them anyway. And we don't need any lawyers in Congress. We need to get rid of them. That's why it's so screwed up. We need to get rid of all the lawyers in Congress and put real hard-working people that want to make a difference, that have an idea, that have a plan, because America was an idea. Out of all the ideas, the 55 men created America, a place where we can all be free, unite, and get along, and advance our life to take it to the next level. And, but now that's under attack. So as we all go forward in this 2022 election, I hope I can win your support. Israel wants your support. Derek Gibson wants your support. Lana Gordon wants your support. And thank God my doctor's coming out here, because he'll be working with the campaign manager and the things as we get ready to build a team and a coalition where it's not about money, it's about character and integrity. And you have to see that in the candidates, because play for pay is out. It has destroyed our country. We need to bring back real candidates that can convince us that they're the candidate that brings hope to restoring America back to Americans. I'm Darren Aquino, my co-host and friend, Johnny Pizza Fratangelo. Don't forget the lastgoodbye-book.com. And then we have our EP, Nikki Fratangelo. And we have, yes, that's the book, I said that. And then we got our good friend, Raymond Stingray Schnetzler from the state of Arizona. And we always got Dougie DJ Fresh. And he has some questions that he'll have some next week. Until next time, everybody, on The Advocate, where the code win talk is. Me and John. See you next time.
God bless everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Popo to popo.
Boom, boom, boom.